5 major stimulus check changes in 2025. I have all the details for you here in the video. Let's get right into it. All right, 2025 is upon us, and we're still very early on in the year as I film this video, but this is the burning question that many of us want to recognize, which is, what can we expect this year? Where do we currently stand with stimulus, and what are all these major changes? Now, I said 5 major changes. Realistically, I could probably say 10 or 15 or 20 or probably even more than that, but that'd be a very long video, and maybe I can bring that to you in a separate one. But in this one, I just want to talk about 5 major changes that are going to impact everything going forward, and again, directly relate to stimulus as well. So again, I know this is a big question. Many of you here in the community reach out down below in the comment section on a very regular basis. I literally see this question every single day down below, and I want to answer it for you, as well as just talk about 2025. What are some of these major changes and how this may land more money in our pockets at some point here? Let's talk through the details. Now, really quickly, I just want to say this much. This list that I've compiled for you is in no particular order at all. It is not in a hierarchy. In other words, what I mean by that is, number 5 is not worse than or less than number 1. They're in no particular order as well. So anyway, with that being said, let's talk through the details here. All right, number 1 is the obvious one, the new administration, okay? Again, whether you agree or disagree, this is just the reality of the situation. The administration has changed. So as a result, we now have this new administration, right? So with that being said, there's going to be a lot of different policies that are also going to be changing, right? Whether it's good or bad or indifferent, we just know that there's going to be a different perspective overlooking everything for the next 4 years, okay? That's just the reality of the situation. Again, we just have to look at all the big picture of everything going on, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, the reconciliation bills that are available, okay? Maybe you've heard me talk about this before in other videos, but I want to throw this out there again. I want to focus on this for just a second here. Just think of this. Some of the biggest changes that we get come out of reconciliation bills. In fact, this is fact. The last stimulus check that we received, the $1,400 third stimulus check that we got back in early 2021, guess what? That came out of a reconciliation package. Guess what they are working on now? A reconciliation package worth trillions and trillions of dollars. They can add virtually anything they want into it. Guess what they can also add into it? Stimulus checks, 100%, they can. This is not restricted. It is not one of these forbidden items to add into a reconciliation bill. They can 100% choose to add a stimulus check into the reconciliation bill. I don't know if they will. All I'm saying is that they can, and that's where the last one came from, okay? So just keep this in mind. I've talked about it before. We don't know the full details of the reconciliation bill yet, but they are absolutely working on 1 for sure, possibly 2 of them this year. It's going to be an eventful year. I guarantee it. We're going to see some very eventful things happening in just a matter of months here. I mean, honestly, in a handful of months, we will see that first one passed. We already know that they are working on it, and they are developing the structure of this. And that is something we certainly need to keep an eye on. They can add whatever they want into it, right? So that is number 2, is the reconciliation bill, which, by the way, the last couple years here, they have not had the ability to do reconciliation bills. They have not been able to do that, but now they can again. Because of how the House and the Senate are, one party, okay? Just throwing that out there, okay? That's just the reality of what we're working with right now. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, I want to talk about the weakening of the overall economy, okay? So you could say like economic contraction, economic recession, kind of coming here, economic weakening. But what we're seeing is a lot of the data points coming out of the economy and the data points that we're receiving every single month are certainly weakening. They're softening, whatever you want to call it. It's all referring to the same thing, but we are seeing contraction in the overall economy. That, when it comes down to stimulus, is a positive, right? I mean, here's the thing. The health of the economy and the distribution of stimulus are like inversely correlated. What I mean by that is if the economy is strong and robust and growing and things like that, we're not going to see stimulus. It's just not a fact. We're not going to see stimulus in that type of environment. However, when we see the economy going down, getting weak, contracting, recessionary warnings, stuff like that, that is when the likelihood of stimulus goes significantly higher, right? So it's kind of like an inverse correlation. All right, that's number 3. Number 4 is the CPI, otherwise known as inflation. Now, here's the thing as well. A couple years ago, back in Well, the last stimulus check that we received was in early 2021, right? Depending on when, you either got it in March or April, the vast majority of people of 2021. That was several years ago. Inflation then topped out in June of 2022 at 9.1%. We saw inflation. So basically early 2021, when inflation was normal, right around 2.5 whatever, percent, it was very low. Early 2021, they passed another $1.9 trillion that they plowed out into the economy that they printed. It jacked up inflation, and then we saw inflation go from normal levels up to 9.1%, right? Nuts. We've been dealing with that, and we're still feeling with the consequences of that today. It's not been a pretty picture over the last couple of years. But my point is, from then until now, inflation has very, 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 very slowly ticked lower. In other words, what that means is that prices are not rising as rapidly as they once were. They're still very elevated, but they're not rising as at the pace that they were for that roughly, year, 14, 15, 16-month period of time before it topped out, okay? My point is behind this. When we saw inflation at, say, 9.1%, at 9.5 or 9%, 8.5, whatever percent, they weren't going to approve stimulus at that point. Are you kidding me? There's no possible way. With inflation sitting that high, the last thing that they were going to do is print another $1 trillion. Not a chance, not happening, right? However, now inflation, again, it oscillates around a bit, but it's kind of sitting around the high 2% range, kind of sub 3%, kind of right around there. It oscillates a bit, but just call it right around 3%, kind of upper twos, very low 3% range. Okay, that's kind of where we're at. So my point is, with that being said, in the event that we need a whole lot more stimulus, it would not be that big of a deal if they printed $500 billion, $800 billion, $1 trillion. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would certainly add to some inflation, possibly. The printing of money is not inflationary. It's the distribution of and the spending of money is what causes inflation. Money, too much money, chasing too few goods and services, that's literally what inflation is, right? So anyway, that's what it comes down to. But my point is, with inflation being lower, the appetite to possibly print more money and push that money out, again, becomes greater. When inflation is very high, they're not going to print a ton of money. But when inflation is low, hey, check it out. We can print some money. Not a big deal. We'll jack up inflation a little bit. Not a big deal. We can bring it back down. No problem whatsoever, right? Not to the degree that they did a few years ago. $6 trillion, that's a problem, okay? All right, so that is number 4. Now, number 5 is the Federal Reserve. Here's the thing as well. A lot of people don't recognize this, and the Federal Reserve and their interest rate policy is honestly pretty confusing to a lot of people. Let me paint a very clear picture, okay? When the economy is strong, when the economy is too strong, what happens? The Federal Reserve raises interest rates to diminish the appetite for borrowing money. When we borrow less money, we spend less money. Again, less money chasing goods and services, inflation goes down. That's the whole idea behind it. When the economy is weak, what does the Federal Reserve do? They lower interest rates aggressively to spur the appetite for borrowing money. When interest rates are very low, what do? We borrow money. You, me, businesses, everybody out there borrows a ton of money, and we spend a ton of money because when interest rates are very low, it's easy to borrow money at that point, right? It's cheap and it's easy to borrow money. So we do it. A lot of people do it. When that happens, we get a bunch of money, we plow it into the economy through buying and spending and all kinds of things like that, and it revitalizes and it stimulates the overall economy, okay? So that's kind of the situation here. But here's the situation now. Interest rates are still sitting very high with the Federal Reserve. In fact, we don't expect another cut out of the Federal Reserve until like late this year. Like October time is what they're projecting now. That is the consensus. My point is, they have plenty of runway to lower interest rates. When they have interest rates very, very low and we get into a tough economic time, they don't really have anywhere to go. That's when you heard years ago, negative interest rates. Did you hear about this? In European countries, they had negative interest rates. What does that mean? Literally, if you were saving money in the bank, they were charging you to keep that money there. A negative interest rate, right? Nuts. It's crazy. My point is, if the Federal Reserve had interest rates very, very low, they would have nowhere to go. They're backed into a corner unless they go negative, right? Not a good idea. But with considering how high interest rates are right now, they have so much runway to lower these interest rates aggressively if they wanted to, and they will. Don't get me wrong, they will. There will be a time when they start bringing these interest rates down very aggressively because they're scared and the economy's falling off a cliff. they will bring them down very, very fast, very aggressively. They will do that. But they have plenty of leeway and plenty of runway to do this. If they had interest rates sitting at, say, 1% or 0%, they'd have nowhere to go. They'd be painted into a corner and they'd have nothing they could do. Now, with interest rates sitting, say, 4+%, they can easily bring them down a lot and add a ton of stimulus into the economy just by lowering interest rates. Not bad. They've got that leverage to do that. And that's where they're sitting now. So they're sitting in a good position. Even though interest rates are very high, contracting the overall economy, they have that runway to bring them down very fast, very aggressively to stimulate the economy massively when needed. And we're not too far off from that. So these are the different 5 points that I wanted to bring to your attention. Again, all of which, I'm going to say this, positive for stimulus or indifferent for stimulus. But my point is, it's only a matter of time at this point, okay? I know a lot of people are getting kind of antsy and thinking, oh, I don't know how long it can go on like this, this financial distress, and it's just a tough situation that I'm going through right now. Totally get you. We're all there together, okay? I mean, this is not like an individual thing. This is very much widespread across the entire country. Everybody is dealing with this, or at least a huge percent of the population. There's a very huge percentage of people that are dealing with this, right? But again, it's only a matter of time here until we get this massive, whoa, we got a major problem on our hands, and then all of a sudden they print up money. And again, who knows? It can happen super fast here, but these are 5 major catalysts that I wanted to point out for you here in this video, okay? And again, I could have a list of 20 or 25. There's a bunch of them, but these are some of the major ones. So anyway, hope this helps you to some degree. Again, I'm here for you in any way I possibly can be. I will continue watching everything very closely and bring you the updates, the details, and advocate and represent you in any way that I possibly can with these videos and with all the research. So I hope this helps you. If I can ask a huge favor of you, number one, subscribe to the channel. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe. There's a big subscribe button right down below the video. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Also, if you can think of 1 or 2 people that benefit from knowing me and or this channel or this video, please feel free to share this video with them, or any of the other 5,000 plus videos here on the channel. Feel free to share those out. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, check out, again, like I said, the 5,000 plus videos in the video library. Down below in the description at the top of the comment section, I've hand selected some videos for you there. Check those out. Or right now popping up on your screen as well, you'll see some videos popping up. Thank you so much. Check out one of those. Otherwise, just have a nice day. That's really all that matters these days. I'm here for you. Just please remember that. And stay tuned. I hope to see you again soon.